All right. Big day, everyone, huh? Lots of people are on new teams. Someone told me there's a football game on Sunday. Steve, how are you feeling about that impending endeavor?
I'm obviously extremely excited. I mean, I don't. The Patriots are gonna. We won't go into it. The Patriots are definitely underdogs, but if they have a chance, and you know what, just to see them back in the Super Bowl is obviously very exciting. And my kids are at the age where they're excited to watch the game, so to be able to watch, with them is going to be a lot of fun. So good energy in the Showley household this week. Looking forward to that game. Very unexpected. I don't know how much NFL you watch, Joe. Adam Falls. Very unexpected run. Easy schedule or not. So just to have the team in the big game and a chance to look forward to it has been really enjoyable.
Yeah, I watch literally zero football. I try to even avoid it on the Super Bowl, but I won't be able to do that because I'm hosting a party. So we'll eat and drink and have the game on in the background. But yeah, that's. I mean, I obviously can't. I had my team, the Indians at the time, in the World Series in 2016. So I I I had a taste of it. So I can imagine. Very lucky to be able to do that with your kids.
Yeah, it's fun for sure.
Well, with that, welcome everyone to Hoops Hobby Hangout. We are on trade deadline day, so it has been 6 hours since the NBA trade deadline. So we're gonna, talk deadline stuff, I'm sure, but kind of try to focus on how that influences our collecting and what that means for our collections and things like that. And I'm here, Joey, with Stephen Adam today. We're Ryan Liss. He's MIA today. So I guess before we get into like card stuff, do you guys have any? What are your initial reactions when you see the trade deadline and what trades went down? What are the first things that pop out at you?
I was kind of shocked Jaylen Brown's still a Celtic. Got to get that out of the way.
Shocked or
but
disappointed?
oh, both, but more
Okay.
disappointed for sure.
So you thought he was legit going to get traded?
No, because I never get what I want, so it's never going to happen that way. But we'll somehow 13 years from now have a guy going up and down in a walker named Jaylen Brown, and I'll just be still sitting here pissed. But obviously, there's been some big moves. Obviously, I think some of them. For me, the biggest thing I take away from them is sometimes seeing like the long play some of these teams have. Like I look at the Mavericks, and a year ago they had Luka, and now they have nothing. So I'm just like, what are you doing? But then you look at like Anthony Davis. You were just playing in LA, and now you're playing in Washington. like the ebbs and flows of the NBA like are ever changing. It's always so entertaining to see how much can change. Not even just one trade, but within like a season where you see like Kristaps go from the Celtics to the Hawks, and obviously no one wants to be there, and then he ends up going to the Golden State Warriors. So it's like that without even a whole season going away, you can see quite a bit of shift.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like the trading of the older or injured kind of past stars this time, right? Like Porzingis to Washington, AD to Washington, Porzingis to Golden State. Who was I just thinking of? Someone else. Oh, Vucevic to Boston, right? So all these players that like should have been good, used to be good, whatever, are now just kind of going on these teams that, really changing their location. What's up, Aaron and Sean and Caleb? Thank you guys for hanging out. And yeah, I know it is really weird that watch Kings basketball and not football. I don't know what it is. I just can't get on the football wagon. Steve, what were your initial thoughts?
I think Adam said it. I mean, just the entertainment factor, right? Like, I absolutely love that out of all the full sports, the trade deadline and the offseason hot stove with the NBA is just always just the craziest stuff going on. I think it's if I want to like make fun of a team, I love that last year the Mavs were like, we have a great idea. Let's get a ball dominant point guard in Kyrie, and we'll team him up with AD. And then the Wizards were like, you know what, that didn't work for you. So we're going to get a ball dominant point guard in Trey and team him up with AD. What I really found interesting this year is how early it all started. This was not waiting until, the trade deadline today and all of a sudden a flurry, stuff happening at midnight through. This has been going on for a few days now. I think it's fascinating that Giannis is still a Buck, but if I was Milwaukee, I would have made the same play. You want to call yourself injured and sit on the bench, you can sit on the bench too, because we're going to get a better package in the offseason. If we trade the draft, it's just easier to trade picks then anyways. So I'm not stoked about the Celtics. I think the Celtics moves are meh. Really, like you brought up Vooch. I think people forget he was drafted in 2011. So, for a guy his size, he's definitely slower, but and Caleb brings it up. I don't hate the move, Caleb, but I mean, all the Celtics did was they got under the luxury tax. So they're second team, second best team in the East right now. Do I think they're a true contender? No, but I'd say the same thing about the Patriots. Get as far as you can and see what happens, right? So they took, a very, very deep roster. They added Vooch. They did need some front court help, but all they did was just continuously for the last 24 hours, just 48 hours or whatever, just trim salary until they got on the luxury tax threshold, which, had they been the 10th best team in the East, fine. But being the second best team in the East kind of frustrates me. They definitely gave up wing depth and guard depth. And, Anthony Simons, I wasn't super stoked about him. And Caleb, I don't know how you felt about him. I know, Adam, we've talked a little bit. He blew me away this year. He played his role exceptionally well. And the Celtics offense is pretty one-dimensional. It's a very jump shot dependent team. And when the Stars didn't have it, he could come off the bench and just get a quick 10 points that really would either, set the tone, or he would come in and get 25 points and a half and really keep the team ready to go in the second half and get a win. I mean, I think he's responsible for more wins this year than people realize. So I think they kind of cut a lot of talent from the roster just to get out of the luxury tax. And but Vooch is a good player. Like I don't hate on it, but I just wish that it wasn't all financially driven when we're mid-season. You do that stuff in the summer. But no, I thought it was an exciting trade deadline. I mean, even the Celtics announced a deal at like 345 today, another money-saving deal. But, this was just one where there's just deals happening all over the place. It was a lot of fun to follow along as a fan.
Yeah, it really did. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, I agree pretty much everything there. I liked Vucevic a lot 10 years ago. Yeah. I mean, he was a super good player. I, in hopes, kind of see maybe this envisionment of him being the Al Horford on this team now that he's gone, kind of a older, savvy, big. I don't think he's anywhere close to Al Horford in any aspect, in my opinion, but I do think that's a spot that we needed filled more than we needed Simons, especially with Tatum's potential return. I don't love it. I don't think it's anything great. I hate the fact that we did so many money moves rather than actually try to make some real ground and make a run, but I can't complain. I mean, I didn't expect too much. So Vucevic is cool. We needed a big veteran leadership. We'll take it.
I felt like, were there any contenders that really went in on adding talent to get better? I feel like the Knicks could have, the Celtics could have, the Pistons. I don't know that anyone, the Warriors feel like Porzingis somehow is going to make them a contender.
Pistons definitely added some depth earlier on in the week. I forget the exact moves they made. They added some depth. I was, and it's recency bias because the Celtics played the Rockets last night. I was shocked the Rockets didn't make a move. They've got Fred VanVleet's blown ACL of a contract to move, and they also have a depth of picks and pick swaps with teams like Brooklyn and a few other low-level teams that, will probably be valuable first-round picks. So I was, in a year that I think we've talked about, obviously the Spurs look great, the Nuggets look great, but it's not like a cut. There's openings there for teams to make a move. I was really shocked that whether it be to replace Steven Adams and get Clint Capella out of there, or to get a true point guard, I was shocked the Rockets didn't make a move to add some real needed depth.
Yeah, that's a good point. And is it who was it that the Pistons added? Kevin Huerter, right? Is that who you're talking about from earlier? Yeah, because they really needed shooting, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kevin Huerter from 3 years. I was listening to one of the national podcasts today, and I don't know. They said this year, like, Huerter's struggling. He's maybe sometimes you need to change the scenery, but I think they said he's shooting this year like 23% from deep. So wow. He's definitely not. But again, shooting in depth is always going to be helpful, and if they can rely a little bit less on some of their older players and spread out the offense a little bit, I think that'll help the Pistons. But the Pistons are a legit squad. They're really fun to watch.
They definitely are. I didn't realize Huerter. I thought Huerter had kind of had a resurgence in Chicago, but I guess the Kings just break people permanently.
That's where you go to basketball die. But yeah, last time I was watching the Pistons, they were just like in my opinion, they had too many stretches where they were just dependent on Tobias Harris. And I think Tobias Harris, if they want to be a real contender, needs to be in, an extra piece off the bench. I don't think they can be relying on him as much. So hopefully by getting some shooting on the floor, they can spread things out and maybe open it up for their other players, because Tobias is a nice player, but I think he proved during his time in Philly that he can't be a go-to guy for long stretches of a really competitive game.
Yeah, and yeah, Caleb brought up the Bulls roster, and I saw that, Steve, you were talking to him in the chat. So yeah, the Bulls now are like 3/4 guards, and I don't know exactly about the breakdown, but what are they do? Are they just they're the Kings in the East, right? They're just the ones that have no direction in the East and are adding mismatched pieces and tanking, I guess. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on the Bulls?
No. Do we need to address that?
I'm still kind of shocked that their last kind of adjustment to adding all the talent they did, what was it, 5 years ago now, was like such a bad outcome. I thought that was going to be a decent run when they had, was it Vucevic, Levine,
And
DeRozan. Like that team I thought was Ball. I thought that team was going to be more competitive than it was in the moment. Obviously in hindsight I was very wrong. But
wasn't that all? Sorry to cut you off, Adam. Wasn't that they were trending upward though? Wasn't it Lonzo Ball's like 2-year knee injury or leg injury or whatever that was pretty? I think that sort of derailed the whole thing.
That did, and then they sent half the team to Sacramento, and
yeah, that's the problem. It's the same problem in Sacramento, right? When you have DeRozan and Levine, you need a point guard to orchestrate everything. So the Kings don't have a point guard. They got who is it? Russell Westbrook, Schroeder.
Didn't you have a guy named De'Aaron Fox pretty recently?
Well, not with Levine and DeRozan. I mean,
sure, I'm just saying, like a guy that would have filled that role perfectly.
Yeah, are you just rubbing salt in the wound?
Okay, Tyrese Halliburton. Sorry, continue.
But yeah, so when Ball was injured, it's just there's nothing to fit those pieces together. So I guess on the topic of the Kings, Caleb also asked about the Kings. Yeah, so he asked, how do you feel about the Kings holding firm on Sabonis, Monk, Levine, and DeMar? I mean, I'm not totally surprised because that was the trend, right? All the older and injured veterans just did not have the command to market. I mean, who got the big hauls in this trade deadline? It was Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ivica Zubac, right? Like the less one-dimensional players that are younger and don't have the albatross contracts. I mean, Sabonis and Levine have the giant contracts. DeRozan is, 36 or whatever at this point. It seems like if you're not at least capable on both sides of the ball and somewhat close to your prime and have a history of being able to stay on the court, you were just traded for peanuts. So I'm not like totally shocked. That being said, I'm pissed. Like, I just don't understand what we're doing right now, right? I just don't know what we're doing here. I mean, think about the trajectory. Forget about the whole Fox and Levine thing, which in and of itself is pretty dumb. And I think even the DeRozan signing was dumb 2 years ago. But just since last summer, it's like you got a new front office. Their one significant move, this summer was adding Schroeder to be the point guard, right? That was in exit interviews last year. It was, this is our problem. We don't have a point guard. We need to get a point guard, and we need to address that position this offseason. They add Schroeder, has an amazing international offseason and FIBA or whatever. It gives everyone this hope that he's going to be good and he's going to bring, kind of be the link that brings all those mismatched pieces together of offense only ISO players, other than Sabonis, who's the only not ISO player that they don't want to play through. It just doesn't make any sense. And then their star signing of the offseason, they have to attach the only asset we have that's not a draft pick in Keon Ellis, and then a second round pick to get rid of him. It's like you're cleaning up your mess, and now you're left with the mess you started with last summer. So I just don't understand what the hell we're doing.
I just want to remind you that when we first had this whole expedition of the hangout here, we did talk about Schroeder, and I think the quote that I said was, International Schroeder is amazing.
Yeah.
NBA Schroeder is going to give you a migraine,
Totally.
and I feel, you know what? A lot of us, I have experienced that. I think he's been on 35 different NBA teams at this point, so we've ridden that train. So welcome to the club. But yeah, I think you brought up an interesting point there, Joe, because not only did the players move, Washington got Dallas out of the AD disaster and took on his contract. Washington paid them draft picks to do that. So it wasn't even like these older guys were moving into thank somebody for getting them, or even swapping, contracts or whatever. Nobody moved. I mean, Harden talked his way out of there, which I gotta love James Harden. The Clippers finally start to turn it around this year. He's like, I'm out, guys. I've had enough of this. I'm gonna demand a trade. And then AD moved, and I don't know what Washington was doing, but yeah, these oh, you're right, that generation of player just didn't move. And I think Sabonis is one of those guys that people aren't really sure what they would do around, especially mid-season. You've got to kind of have a unique offense for him. So I'm not surprised he didn't move. I'm surprised he didn't move last summer, but I'm not surprised he didn't move during the trade deadline. That's a tough one.
Yeah, and I won't spend too much more time talking about the Kings, but on the point of Sabonis, it's like he's too old to go to a rebuilding team that's tanking and trying to start from scratch and rebuild around him, but he's not adaptable enough to be able to go to a contender and really contribute to a roster that's already built and developed, because he's just so particular in his strengths and his weaknesses, which are pretty glaring on both sides, right? So he's in this no man's land.
So I have a question for you, Joe, and I'm going to put you on the spot because I know this doesn't apply as much to Adam with modern day cards, but thinking of the collecting, and I have an answer for this, but so as a team like the Kings who have these blips and they get good, but you have players coming through your organization all the time, how do you look at collecting? With that being said, where you might only have you don't often have players that are there for a decade, right? You have players that maybe get traded mid-season. So do you have any Sabonis Pacers cards? Or like, when do you decide to pick up stuff? Do you ever get excited about a deal or a signing? Like, how does your collecting habits, as far as your King stuff, not some of your other PCs, but your King stuff, reflect or not reflect all these roster changes that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes down to it, I think I've at some point mentioned I collect Kings that I have a connection to. So I don't collect anything before I started really being a Kings fan in '98 when they got good. So if I feel like I have a positive connection to the player, I'm going to collect them in a Kings uniform. So, I mean, I've always been a Russell Westbrook fan. So when he was signed, I was stoked to be able to add some Westbrook Kings cards. And I love Sabonis. So I collect his King stuff. I don't collect any non-King stuff. So I don't care that, I won't use the example of Sabonis and Westbrook because I was fans of them before they came to the Kings. So I picked up some of their stuff. But if you're talking to me about DeRozan, like, I don't care that he's a rookie with the Raptors. I'm not picking up his Raptors rookie stuff. It doesn't matter. I don't care that his stardom was with the Raptors and that, So to me, all that matters, or all I care about, is his time with the Kings. So I'll only collect that stuff. And you didn't necessarily specifically ask about this, but I also hear or see a lot of people that get rid of cards of players after they leave. So, De'Aaron Fox is now a Spur. Like, I'm going to get rid of all my Fox stuff. I don't fall in that boat. Like, it's an unexciting answer, but other than the fact that I'm excited to pick up cards of players I like, and if players I like get signed, or I grow to like them when they get traded or signed, I'm happy to pick up cards of theirs. But it doesn't really change my collecting, to be honest.
It's interesting you say that, because that was going to be my next question, as far as you then consolidate to get rid of it all. And I think I mentioned on here, part of what led to the Jay Crowder stuff is there was a period in time where I would collect one or two of the best rookies of players that were on the teams that I liked. And I loved the 16-17 Celtics. But even a few years before there, when Jay Crowder, even Tyler Zeller, Isaiah Thomas, when those guys became Celtics, I would grab one or two of their best rookies. The stuff that I liked, right? The gold standard out of 10 patch, or the immaculate, jersey numbered patch, gold prisms when you could actually get them for, $50 or whatever. But even then, like, there were a couple of rookies. Like, there was a time when Brad Stevens or Danny Ainge were just drafting like a bunch of rookies. We had Aaron Neesmiths, Romeo Langfords, Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchards, and I always picked like I'd always have like at least, and there was probably 3 or 4 draft classes that guys that probably Adam and I, if we racked our brains, couldn't even remember all of them. Like, there's a couple of years where they had 3 first-round draft picks plus like a highly sought after second-round pick. So I had like a run where I had probably a couple binder pages of Romeo Langford. I just liked his game. He was like super athletic. Obviously, became nothing. And every time those guys would come on board, I'd pick up stuff like at shows if I liked it or not. Then when they would get traded, I remember specifically Romeo Langford. I actually went on did like an Instagram story about now what do I do with this stuff, right? Because he got traded for Derek White. Kudos, Brad Stevens, great move.
Yeah, well done.
But I had like just a binder page, so 2 sides of 12 pockets plus a couple of like relic cards, and I remember like sorting through and be like, what do I do now, right? And I ended up sending most of it to ComC. I sold it off. I kept 1 game used patch because he had flawless rookie patches, and I think I kept his Donruss next day auto just as like to have as like that was part of my collection. But I'm definitely one that will consolidate down. So like I got my lumps in the hobby collecting Jared Sullinger cards, and he didn't pan out in the Celtics either. He wasn't a trade deadline move, but I definitely got rid of almost everything I had and got out from under it and doing the whole consolidation thing. So when players get traded, I do tend to like look at what I have and then see what's my connection to it. Do I still want to own it? Because for me, there's something about if the player's on my team currently, I enjoy having a larger array of his cards, and I don't know why. It's just if I'm going through my binder, flipping through my box, and I'm currently rooting for Peyton Pritchard, then I enjoy having a few more Peyton Pritchard cards. But if eventually Pritchard gets traded, if I had a couple binder pages, I would be like, you know what? I'm going to find the ones that really mean the most to me, and I'm going to move off from the other ones. And that's all. It's easy for me to say because I'm not picking up anything of any of these guys that's like high value. I'm not getting downtowns or kabooms or prism golds these days. I'm getting like a base optic hollow, an optic on card auto or something. So it's all low end cards, but I do a lot of the consolidating. I don't tend to hold on to the stuff as much once the guys move on.
I think that approach makes sense. I mean, if you're rooting for a player, it makes sense that you want to buy their cards, right? But I guess my question in response to that is that universal? If what Adam was alluding to and Jaylen Brown got traded today, would you get rid of most of your Jaylen Brown cards? I mean, he was the finals MVP for your championship, your one championship in the last 15 years, so does that affect things? Because obviously he still has such a meaningful legacy in Boston.
What affects things is when his cards spiked during the pandemic and I sold everything I had anyway. So I have very few Jaylen Brown cards. I have 1 rookie on card auto, and I probably have 6 or 7 game use patches, and then and then when I say a couple team sets, like some random like out of 75 parallel, like maybe 3 or 4 like little team sets I did during the championship run. I have very few Jaylen Brown cards. I used to PC him. I used to chase all of his jersey number cards I could find. Plus, I was trying to get like all of his high end rookies. But yeah, I moved all of that during the pandemic hype when it was just selling for crazy money, and some of it I wish I held on to because it's worth even more now. But but yes, if I had a ton of it, if I had kept that collection and he moved on, yes, I would consolidate down to probably what I have right now, like a couple of game use patches, 1 or 2 like meaningful cards for sure. Yeah.
That's interesting to me because, and I don't know if you're watching, you see that late 90s b-ball with us now. Welcome. Glad you got everything figured out with the camera and stuff. And I think we were talking this week about kind of being team collectors because you're a Magic collector, I'm a Kings collector, kind of how the movement of players affects our collecting. So I guess for me, I still have those, like if I was a Celtics fan and I had Jaylen Brown cards, those memories are still there. And I'm celebrating the fact that he was a finals MVP that brought my team a championship and things like that. So that's why I would be like, oh, I can't move it. I mean, I still have a little vitriol towards De'Aaron Fox. I haven't moved a single Fox card. I mean, I haven't picked up new Fox cards since he was traded, but I still, he was with our team for so many years. He set a lot of records. He was the best player on our team for a long time. So it's still meaningful to me, even if they're not there. So I just was wondering where kind of you land as a Magic collector. And
before Justin, I just want to say what's up. So I'm super stoked you joined us. And one thing I'm just going to say in response to that, Joey, and I'm going to try and say this without sounding as arrogant as it's going to make me sound, but I would say part of the motivation for moving. No, it's Boston collectors are insane. So when stuff like that happens, a player gets spiked, there gets to a point where there's a monetary value that I'm like, I can't hold on to this. And I think a Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown card is more likely to hit that level than, say, a Sabonis or a DeMar DeRozan card, right? So part of it also that I don't talk about, I don't talk about the money side of things much. When I say I move Jaylen Brown cards, some of those things just got to cards that I paid $50 for, maybe got to 600, 1,000. You know what I mean? So there's also, if it stayed a $50 card, then I'm more likely to hang on to it. But Celtics, there's an international Celtics community of collectors that when stuff like that happens, cards spike, and then that changes my metrics too a little bit. So trying to say that without saying Boston's better than Sacramento or whatever, but it's just a different collectible market atmosphere out there that I think changes my thoughts on some of that stuff as well. But so sorry to cut you off. Transition to Justin. I will mute myself now.
No, you're good, Steve. Yeah. So the concept of, and I get that, from a value standpoint, it maybe doesn't make sense to keep those cards. It might make sense to move them. For me, the concept of moving them is so foreign that I just hold on to them forever. I mean, I have, and I'm a binder collector too, so I like to keep things in binders, but I have, probably 6 or 7 or 8 binders, with 400 plus pages in them of just Orlando Magic base cards. Okay. Nothing special. And I see Steve laughing because it sounds ludicrous. Nobody does this anymore. But, as a team collector, I like to see every player. So, I might have some in-person autographs thrown in there, some inserts, but it's largely a lot of base cards because I just want to see every generation of, iteration of Magic teams that there is that I remember watching, which, goes back to the early 90s. So almost since the genesis of the team, but not quite. And all of those mean something to me. I can remember different stages of life, right? Where, whatever's going on, I remember watching that iteration of Orlando Magic team. And it brings back all these memories. So I just can't move on from those cards, Maybe if I have a duplicate, it might make sense to get rid of one here or there, but it doesn't happen too often. And so I've got a sort of a bulk Orlando Magic collection. Now, that being said, I have streamlined my collecting a little bit more in the past 5 years or so to, look for quality over quantity. But I've just got so much from, breaking boxes when I was younger. We would get on a whole nother story, but, used to be able to get a box for, $50 and under, like a hobby box. And even in 2010, 11, I was buying boxes of 96, 97 Skybox Premium for, $30 off eBay. So there's just a whole bunch of it. But yeah, when a player moves, I don't, whether they're traded or otherwise, I don't tend to get rid of their stuff. And in fact, I'll still continue pursuing it and collect it if it's something unique or interesting I want. I grabbed a couple things. I grabbed a very small stack, stuff I'll grab. I grabbed these purposely because Steve is a Nikola Vucevic hater. So nice. I just grabbed a random stack that I had sitting around. These were in it. Some game worn shorts, Nikola Vucevic. I love Vuce, and
I also, to my defense, Justin was telling me how much he loves Vooch, and I had to remind Justin that his memories of Vooch were over a decade ago at this point. So.
Well, yeah, you can see why I don't get rid of anything, because to me it's like it was yesterday. That was a really dark time in Orlando Magic history. We were a terrible team, barely winning, and the only bright spot really was Vooch. Stand-up guy, went out there, did his job, got it done, double, machine usually, and just everybody around the team I think really liked him. And the big thing for me for Vooch, he loved being here. He loved playing for the Orlando Magic. I think he would come back today if he could. In fact, I know some people who have talked to him when he came with the Bulls and stuff, and like, hey, we miss you. And he's like, yeah, I miss it. He would come back. But it's rare to find that for the Magic as a small market team. A lot of guys, aren't necessarily really interested in being here. So to have someone who actually liked playing here and wanted to play here, it makes a difference to me. So take it for what it is. I like Vooch. But any other, you can name probably any Magic player, and I've got a bunch of weird cards for them. Even I know there's usually someone here, I think that's like a Nuggets collector. Here's a 101 Gary Harris. He was awful for us, absolutely terrible. Yet I've still got one. It's not special looking or anything, but I've got, like I said, they all hold a place in Magic history to me. So I grabbed some like random ones I grabbed a little stack and just had a bunch of random stuff in there. Like there's like a gold Tobias Harris, just all. I've just got a plethora of random Orlando Magic stuff. Here's a Vince Carter.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
And especially Vince. I mean, Vince on the Magic was huge for me. I could talk about every player and what it meant for me, but Vince was a local guy who played high school ball here and in Daytona, and I had actually seen him play in high school. I was much younger, but I saw him play in a game, before he was big time. And I loved when he came to the Magic. He was here a short stint, but like that 09-10 run to the Eastern Conference Finals, that was huge. And he played a role. So let's see, another Magic great like Hito Turkoglu. I don't have a ton of nice Hito cards. I have some, but I love Hito. I'll grab anything Hito.
Underrated player and underrated set. That absolute set was awesome. Those Spectrum cards look really good.
Yeah, and underrated is right. I mean, if Hito was in today's NBA, I think he'd be unbelievable. I mean, an early point forward, he could stroke it from three. He was unreal, and driving to the basket, he was almost unstoppable. At that time, 6'10". Him and Rashard Lewis kind of doing the same thing at that time in the early 2010s. 2008, 2009. Like it wasn't happening yet. They were really, I think, one of the first teams that started doing it in that run with Van Gundy. They've since lost that. I didn't keep it. But
hindsight's 2020. But if you listen to any of the interviews the guys from that era, give about that run and those, what led up to the 2010 or the 2009 Magic team, whenever they went to the finals, almost all of them will say that one of the biggest game changers for them was getting Turkoglu into the facility and onto the team, and the grind and the energy and I think he had brought a different edge to him that you wouldn't expect, but also the versatility. Like he was very well respected by his peers in the league. He's definitely an underrated player.
Yeah, definitely a Swiss Army knife on the court. He could do anything, and then he'd just go sit on the bench and eat pizza and come back in and destroy. So,
and on those teams, you said Vince was part of those teams. Was he kind of in that vet role?
Yes, but maybe a little more than a vet at that time. I mean, in the 09-10 team, he could still provide like a decent source of scoring. He wasn't. I mean, his career was so long; it's hard to even remember, how long he was productive, because it seemed like forever. But he was still like significant on that team, and it may have even seemed more significant to me just given he was kind of from here and just being so excited to have him.
I'm going to stare at Adam while I say this. I'm going to look for his nonverbal response. I was thinking of Vince the other day and realized that we forgot to mention him when we had our overrated discussion many months ago, because I was looking at his stats. Like, great player and a very impactful, like, on the league type player. But, man, is he overrated in the echelon of the greats that ever played this game. Longevity stats through the roof for Mr. Carter. Through the roof.
Where is he rated? I mean, he's not top 75, right?
No, he's not top 75.
Yeah, but and I'm not trying to crap on. I'm being facetious on purpose because Justin's brought up. I crapped on Tobias Harris. I crapped on Vooch. So I might as well go Carter. But I think when we talk about the cards, like, his cards are brought up with, like, the Anthony Hardaways of the world, right? Where I think the nostalgia kicks in more. And I do think Vince was one of the most impactful players to enter the league in the late 90s. I do think he was part of the resurgence of the NBA. And I think that clouds people's vision or remembrance of what he was, as far as, like, being the guy that could be an alpha guy or leader. He wasn't one of the greats of the greats, but people sort of misconstrue that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's not top 75. I can accept that, but if you tell me that Tracy McGrady shouldn't be in the top 75, and I know he's not, then we'd fight, because I think I think Tracy should be in the top 75. Here's a black refractor that was in that random pile that I grabbed.
No, it's slick. I love that photo.
Yeah, it's terrible glare on my end, but
that's a great year for black refractors.
Luckily, you won't have to fight alone on McGrady. I love McGrady.
Yeah.
Tracy's probably my favorite Magic player. He's not the top guy that I collect, because I do have some emphasis on certain players. And mainly that's because his cards are a little more expensive, and the selection for Magic cards in those early 2000s isn't, necessarily where I'd want it for him. But
look at that twinning.
Yeah,
love those.
Nice. I've got the white one too, so I like to have those two together. But
nice.
That looks great. But his watching him play, I mean, I had never seen anybody like him. His ability to move, like, he was just so slick on the court. It was incredible. Like, his scoring, I still don't that I've really seen anybody play exactly like him from my standpoint. But I mean, the guy was just a bucket. He could go out there and do anything.
Prime T-Mac was absolutely elite, and just played the game at a different pace than other players. Question for you, Justin. So Sean pops into the chat and asks, and I know part of how you're going to respond to this, but how is Nick Anderson remembered in the Orlando Magic world?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think of Nick fondly. I mean, does it suck that, Hattie made those free throws? Maybe we would have won a championship. Yeah, it's possible, right? It's possible. But the guy, he was our first draft pick, so that's huge. He played for the Magic for a really long time. He's still involved. He's like a community ambassador. You'll see him at every single game. I mean, every game I go to, even now, he's there. Super nice. He'll take pictures with you. In fact, I went to a game last year, and we got to go a little early, and through a certain program, and we were near the court. This was it was kind of around shoot-arounds, and I had a card with me, and my son, I'll tell my son, there's Nick Anderson, and can we get a picture with you? And he's like, yeah, and he just takes my son and just hoists him up with one arm like it's nothing, and so that sort of thing is great for the community. So I don't have any ill will towards Nick. I mean, was that our best shot to maybe get a championship, and we didn't, and that played a big role, yeah. But crap like that happens. So
I think what people really want to know is, how was 1991 Slam Dunk champion D Brown remembered in the Orlando Magic?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a good question. I think D was, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was local for Florida for a while. Didn't he?
His family still lives down the Florida area. He went to Jacksonville U. He once he left Boston, he brought his family down to Florida, and they all were born in Boston but grew up in the Florida area, and they still reside down there. His son's at Jacksonville now, actually.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So, I can't say that I've heard a lot of Magic fans talking about him.
I don't even know if he played a full season for you guys. He was there after his Raptors days, but
yeah,
Justin knows that one of my chase cards, probably top 10 chase cards for me right now, is one that I have to fight him for, which is a D Brown MVP promotion from his Orlando Magic days, because it's the 1 year of tops that he doesn't have a refractor for. So
yeah, that's the purple one. What is that? 2000, 2001, I think.
Yeah, 2000, 2001. Yeah, which because he's card number 201, I think it is, or 203 or something. And the Chrome that year was only cards 1 through 200. So he just missed the chance to have refractor.
Yeah, it's definitely sitting in my binders of Magic base cards, just not the MVP promotion.
Yeah.
So,
well, good question, Sean. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I wanted to also bring a couple things in from the chat and transition to something. But before that, Justin, just a heads up, you were mentioning the Nuggets collector. He's also a Gary Harris super collector. That's Ryan. So if you're ever interested in connecting there.
I mean, look, that I don't usually, I rarely move cards, but for a super collector, I would consider it. So I don't know if it's one he's dying to have, probably not.
But I wanted to talk about what some people were talking about in the chat. The crazy one and Gary were talking about player collecting. So I don't know if Steve, this maybe appeals to you more than it does to us team collectors a little bit. And sorry, Adam, I know you're like neither necessarily a team or player collector, so I hope you're not
here so I don't get fined
over there. But the crazy one says he's a player collector and doesn't worry about the team they're on. Trades are so common, it's not going to let him affect the way that he collects. And Gary mentioned that I feel like it's maybe the opposite perspective. I don't know. I'm not really sure if it's the same perspective or the opposite perspective, but he says that there are still some cards he doesn't touch as a player collector. For example, he doesn't buy John Wall Clippers cards because he doesn't associate him with that team. I know that, Steve, you kind of commented on Paul Pierce with the Clippers too, but yeah, I mean, I guess just as a player collector, it's like most players end up with a random team to end their career, right? So, and I guess as we're transitioning, I'll bring Aaron Q's cardboard up. What's up, man?
Hey, you guys.
Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for coming on. But yeah, so kind of just talk player collecting. I'm not a player collector, so
I mean, it's tough to talk in terms of the trade deadline, because what I do with my player collections, and I'll put Adam on the spot a little bit, because I've even talked Adam into thinking outside the lane a little bit with like chronicling a player's career, right? So I think, Adam, you maybe even went out and got like a Bill Russell collegiate auto at one point, right? Because we talked about, capturing a total player's career. So like for Paul Pierce, my all-time favorite player to collect and watch, I have everything from collegiate cards up through Hall of Fame induction cards and everything in between, including Wizards, Nets, Clippers cards, right? So, but it wasn't, when he went to the Nets, I didn't say, oh, I'm going to go get some Nets cards. It's just over time I found appreciation for that. So in terms of like the trade deadline, I don't know that I resonate as much, but I definitely resonate on the player collector. Like I have Al Horford. I have an OKC Thunder game use patch, just more so that I was fascinated that he played like 10 games with the Thunder and they managed to get a game use jersey. But so players that I really like, I will try to chronicle their career, right? So I do have Bill Russell collegiate stuff. I would love a Bill Russell Team USA basketball card, even if it's just like a photo they use on Prism or something. Like I would love the players that I really admire to chronicle their career. But someone like Porzingis, who I was like a huge fanboy over, similar to what Justin was saying about Vooch in Orlando, nobody in the last few years has loved playing for the Boston Celtics more than Kristaps Porzingis. Loved watching the fun that he had being a basketball player in the city. I'm not going to go out and get, I'm not even able to keep track of all the teams he's going to be on between now and the time he retires, because he's probably unfortunately going to bounce around because he's sort of an injured riddled contract. So I think it really depends on how I feel about the player and what I want to say about my collection of that player than it does response to the teams they come and go from in the moment at all, if that makes sense, Joey.
Was there a more memorable moment than Kristaps getting busted in the face and bleeding all over the court last season?
The only thing that was better was his instant reaction of starting to laugh about it, because he loved it, because he loved the fact that he was getting a standing ovation for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really interesting. I think that I'm sure it depends on the player. I mean, you go for every Crowder card, right? Every Crowder card that's released. So it's another kind of thing there. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And I think that's what Tim does, right? Forkbeard Sports Card. I mean, that's what he does. He chronicles their career. And he kind of mentioned he watched a Stony Brook loss today. So we're sorry for your loss. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. That's what a player collector, I guess, would want to do, is chronicle the career. Aaron, you've been listening to all this. Do you have any thoughts on trades and how they affect your collecting? Do you want to kind of just give the context of what your focus is collecting?
I collect mainly, in terms of modern stuff, Syracuse University alumni. So right now that's almost exclusively Jeremy Grant. And I get, O'Shea Brissett was oddly included in Topps Chrome as a G League 2A player for last year. But yeah, so I collect mostly Syracuse alumni, and I've got a binder where I have a silver, a team color, and a gold. If they're not all filled for the gold, but that's the idea for each row for each player as they progress through their career. Because for the most part, Chrome and Prism, you can find a color match, so to speak, and they've been pretty consistent between having a silver and a gold over the years. And so that's the way that I've kind of chronicled careers without getting a super bloated, as I would put it, probably collection, and being a little more budget conscious, I guess, as well. But yeah, so the players are almost chosen for me as a Syracuse fan. And then, once they leave Syracuse, they're kind of just being collected by me in perpetuity. So, they're not, there's not a lot of them these days. We're out of our heyday. We're in the doldrums. Yeah, that's kind of the genesis of my collection. And then I've also collected like Syracuse Nationals. I've gotten into more vintage and all that. And so I've collected Syracuse Nationals and basically anything I can find that has to do with Syracuse, any connections. So, but yeah, it all started with Syracuse University, and which is player collecting in a weird sense for most of you guys who are more team collectors of NBA teams. So
if a Syracuse player goes to 7 or 8 different NBA teams, are you trying to pick up cards of them in each uniform?
Yeah, as long as they have cards released in a given year, I'll pick up 2 or 3 probably per year. And then I usually have at least 1 or 2 rookie autos. I pretty lean on patches. Someone like Carmelo Anthony being our most notable alum, right? I've got a handful of patches for him. I've got 3 or 4 autos for him, which is more than I have of most people, most of the guys. So, the longer and more important a guy was here and in his NBA career, the more I have of him. But yeah, there's kind of like there's the bare minimum, I would say, is probably 2 or 3 cards per guy per year if they have them.
So here's a question that is meant to be a joke, but it's actually like honest because of the way both college basketball and the hobby is right now. What happens with a freshman who's then decides to enter the transfer portal, plays another 3 schools in Bowman University, has
so
college
I haven't quite had to encounter that
Not yet, Aaron. But that's going to happen at some point with the way
Bowman
goes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much anyone's paying attention to NCAA, especially Syracuse this year, but we're very mediocre when there was at least some expectations. And so the coach is very much on the hot seat.
Yeah.
And we have some decent recruits, including Carmelo's kid. And so there's some fear about, do they leave? I don't even know. I'd probably still, it's like Joey. If I made a positive connection with them, I'd probably still collect them, at least to some extent as they go pro, if they go pro. But there were guys that were here for a year and transferred out, and grazed the NBA. Like Darius Baisley is one who I don't have any cards of. So yeah. So probably yes, just because I like to have things to collect, and there's not much as a Syracuse collector. But yeah, I haven't quite had to encounter it yet fully.
Do you wish there was more? Like, do you wish you had more options, or are you happy that the pickings are slim so that you can get more of it? Like, you can make it almost.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself going down more rabbit holes because the pickings are slim. So I mean, that's kind of what like the Syracuse Nationals vintage stuff started as. I think I would like at least a couple more players. Like Jeremy Grant is getting repetitive. He's kind of been the only guy for 5 or 6 years now of any relevance.
He's the only Syracuse relevant player in the NBA right now.
He's the
Wow.
only Syracuse player full stop that right now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, pickings are slim, and he wasn't in Chrome, so we'll see if he gets in some update or something like that. But I don't know.
Gary feels like the transfer portal makes it a pain to collect college, and I am assuming, like you kind of were alluding to, Steve. So I guess what is it about it? It's like they're only on your team for a bit, and then they transfer somewhere else, and that's what's frustrating about it, or?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's we've had players who I liked, especially in their freshman year. There's one that came to mind who's not going to have an NBA career. But he bounced around because he didn't get the playing time he liked his freshman year. He ended up being St. John's starting point guard his last year, and they were pretty good last year. They made it pretty far in the tournament, and I was kind of rooting for him. But I don't know if I would have collected him or not if he went to the NBA. But there's with the portal now and NIL, you can transfer with no friction. You can just play the next year wherever you want, and you can play for 4 teams in 4 years if you want to. So it's very mercenary like out right now.
Yeah, the crazy one was saying he goes after every card of the players he collects, including Derek Coleman. Who is he? Is he from Syracuse? Because Sean brought him up as commercials from the 80s. Did he go to Syracuse?
Yeah, Derek Coleman was Syracuse. He was a number 1 draft pick. Was that 90? I think. So a little bit before my time. But yeah, he was Syracuse. Prior to Carmelo, he probably is. I mean, Dave Bing, but prior to Carmelo, in terms of more modern players, he's the most accomplished Syracuse alumni.
Good job, you were right.
I don't know if you're quite my age, but I remember Derek Coleman being so dominating in the NBA, and yet the narrative was that if he actually liked playing basketball, he would have been even more dominating. Like he was known as being like a mercenary in the 90s, that he just was out there. He played hard enough to get his contract, and he still tore it up on both ends of the court. But he always, the narrative coming through, and there's no social media back then, was like he actually didn't care to play the game. Like he didn't love it. He just did enough to get what he had to out of the game so that he could move on with his life. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I every time I hear his name, I just think of how good he was, and then those stories I would always hear through, the radio or talking, chops and stuff. But man, he was good. He moved so well for a guy his size.
I actually, on the topic of Derek Coleman, obviously it's a lot easier to collect, like, as a crazy one, every card of your PC player if they're from the 90s. And you were right, Aaron, it is in 1990 when he was drafted. Justin, I don't know if being a Magic collector from then through now, are you finding yourself not trying to get as many, like, are you trying not to complete checklists anymore because they've gotten so extensive, or are you still trying to go after every card from Magic players, or kind of where are you there?
Yeah, no, there's no way I could possibly chase entire checklists like nowadays. That would just be impossible. I mean, from my standpoint, I basically, when it comes to ultra modern type stuff, I'll only get it if it's a player I really like on the current team, or if it's kind of unique. Like right now, I would probably only grab stuff like ultra modern stuff of Franz and Mo, maybe, because I like them. And that's really about it. I mean, the earlier Panini stuff I still grab. And I prefer like pre-Panini, but something I was thinking about. Do you guys think that it's pretty prevalent for team collectors to also be player collectors? Because I know in my instance, like primarily I'm a team collector, but I also player collect certain Magic players more so than the rest of the Magic history. Like one of my main PCs is Darryl Armstrong. I primarily do Darryl, Jameer Nelson, and Nick Anderson from a player collector standpoint, even though it still falls within my team collecting. But I don't know. I feel like maybe it's pretty easy to become a player collector, while at least starting out as a team collector and doing both. Even though mine are a little odd. Typically I imagine most people, maybe they go for more stars or superstar style players rather than role players like I like. But there's one other Daryl Armstrong collector out there, and he's pretty cool. He's local. We've met a few times. It's actually pretty fun. Like, he finds a card he really needs, or I find a card. Sometimes he's got a duplicate. Sometimes I find one for him. Like, that's pretty fun. But I don't know. Do you think that's pretty common for team collectors to also fall in that player collector category with like as like a subsection?
Well, Steve, that's what happened to you, right? I mean, you're a Celtics collector, but then you became a Crowder super player collector. I mean, is that the same? Is that the trajectory?
There's a ton of overlap, right? Like, you end up having your favorite players. So, years that I would put together team sets, but I've loved Al Horford since his time in Florida, right? So when he came on the Celtics, I started getting more of his, and I've kept more of those than I did some of my, Isaiah Thomas cards, or, Amir Johnson card that I had of his, right? So I think I think there's some overlap. I don't know that you can put anything in a firm bucket. It's just kind of how we approach things. But yeah, and we also impulsively buy from time to time. But so I definitely say I'm more of a player collector, and the way Ryan and I have discussed it. Ryan does the Nuggets. He puts his stuff by year, by team, and I put my stuff by player. So even though I might have a whole run of, a certain year of the Celtics, all the Horford stuff's together in a binder, all the Jaylen Brown stuff's together in a binder, all the Tatum stuff's together, where he's going to put his so I'm representing the player and he's representing the team, because he'll have the entire 2017-18 Nuggets roster together in his binder, and then the 19-20 stuff will be together. So I think it's just more about how we organize it and what we prioritize when we buy. Like, I'm going to look for Paul Pierce cards first, and then if I see a nice Ray Allen or Kevin Garnett, I might consider it. Whereas, like, if you're more of a team, like you, Justin, probably, or Aaron with Syracuse cards, like, I'm sure the stuff you prioritize more than looking for a certain player, right? So I think it's just more how you put priority behind it versus saying, like, I only do one or the other.
Yeah, and honestly, I actually, until you said that, Justin, I never considered myself a player collector, but I guess reflecting on it, to the extent of being a player collector without trying to be very, I don't want to say completionist. You're not going to get the 10,000 cards that a 2022, 23 rookie might have by now. But, like, I started collecting in 2010. So the first rookie that was around when I collected was Tyreek Evans. So I definitely emphasized trying to pick up his cards. And that might be easier because he didn't have that long of a stint with the Kings before he was traded. But, there's certain players, him, DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins is the best Sacramento Kings since 2004, in my opinion, right? Stuff like that. Tyrese Halliburton is an easy one to do because he had so few Kings cards relatively. So in those senses, like, I definitely, like Steve said, I definitely emphasize those players for whatever reason, whether it's convenience or because I have a particular affinity for them. But yeah, I think it is so natural, right? I mean, you're not going to like every player on the team. Zach LaVine is a King, and my goal is never to buy a Kings card of his. It's just the way, it goes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have my favorites within Syracuse, like Hakeem Warwick, who's a random guy in 2005. So he had a big block to win Syracuse the championship in 2003. He was a rookie 2 years later, and I probably super collect him, quote unquote, more than anyone, even though he had such a short run. But it's the perfect combination of affordability, not thousands of cards. And, I was 11 or 12 when the championship was. So I was the perfect age to be like, this is my guy. So now that I have expendable income, I'm trying to go back and find those 2005 finest parallels. It's a little harder, but, nice goose chase, I guess.
This is off topic, Aaron, but I'm just curious because we have you here. We haven't talked to many collegiate fans as far as collectors go. Do you like any of the collegiate products, whether it be like the late 90s, early 2000s press pass stuff, or any of the more modern upper deck
some of the press pass stuff in there. There's some on-card autos of guys you can't get.
Yep.
Typically, I've preferred the NBA stuff just because the quality of the card and the design and all that has been better. And then you can kind of track their careers and you can kind of go through, whereas the collegiate stuff kind of one and done. But then Syracuse is a player right now who, so Topps has put some weight behind Bowman University recently.
Yep.
And Syracuse is a player who was in last year's product, and they have at least, I imagine Carmelo's son will be in this year's product whenever it comes out. And I picked up a couple color matches. So the orange are out of 25. And so it's a nice kind of little bit of rarity. Looks nice with the color match. So I picked up a couple, but I don't go too crazy with it.
Yeah.
I usually prefer the pro stuff.
And it's right what you said. Not only there's so much inconsistency in the collegiate stuff, whether it be Sage, Press Pass. Even now, there's Bowman U. Upper Deck came out with a multi-sport, multi-school. It's not every NCAA school, but they call it the World of Sports, which has. I have seen it because of Sarah Strong and UConn. Like some of the UConn players are in it, but World of Sport will be a one and done product. Bowman U at least has finally got some consistency behind it. But we've had a year or two of Panini Flawless Collegiate or Panini Chronicles Collegiate, and you're right. There's a lot of inconsistency. And
there was something like 10 years without any collegiate products, though, from like the mid 2000s to the mid 2010s when Panini started picking it back up. So, there's kind of a ghost land out there for some of my favorite guys. So, hit and miss.
Then there was Flair Retro back in 2012 when Adam and I would have been hanging on the Beckett boards together, and that stuff was crapped all over. And now people pay up for all those PMGs and everything from that collegiate set. So, yeah, it is a little bit of a Wild West out there.
You mentioned 2005 Finest Parallels. This was sitting in that little stack that I had. White gold X Factor.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So I think that's what you were looking for, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Hakeem has the Finest XRCs and from the year before, and then he's got the rookie cards from that year too. So two nice rainbows to chase that are more affordable than if I was trying to go after Carmelo's gold refractors.
Yep. Yeah, that Finest year is nice. Those extractors are real nice, and I think I've got the black extractor, which I want to say is to 9. Might be mistaken, but that's a nice set to chase for sure.
Aaron, do you collect the Syracuse players as well, or just basketball?
Some football, yeah. I do a lot of Donovan McNabb cards. He was my favorite player, and I'm still an Eagles fan because of him. And then I've got some of like the Jim Browns and the Ernie Davises and those guys from a vintage standpoint too. So I do have some, but I'm probably like 80-20 basketball, football.
Have you looked at any of the Ernie Davis patches?
I have looked. Yeah.
They're college game worn is why I ask.
That's why I've looked. Yeah. One of my favorite cards that I have full stop is a Carmelo game used college patch card. And just because of the importance to me for that. Obviously Ernie way predates my existence.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of a detachment there, but it is a cool kind of relic there. So I definitely have taken a look at that because I think Larry Zonka, someone has some Larry Zonka collegiate material too. So a couple things to chase after.
One of those for the sake of conversation.
Nice.
But yeah, Zonka does have some as well. They're from National Treasures, the same as this, I believe. But he has some that aren't NFL material. They are Syracuse worn.
I love that set, Adam. Such a nice set.
Yeah, they're pretty good looking. I like those too.
What year is that from?
2011.
Oh, nice.
The early 2000s, 2010, like Panini stuff and all that, like that stuff is actually pretty nice. I mean, I think for basketball and for football, it's a shame the direction it went, but
I agree.
The first couple of years aren't, like you said, 2009, 10, 11 range isn't bad, but you start getting further and further from that, and the quality and everything goes down drastically. I, like yourself, much prefer the pre-Panini stuff football, like the National Treasure sets in 06, 07, 08, I love, and obviously all the Upper Deck exquisite chronology type stuff in the mid 2000s. Topps Chrome, like we talked about with the McGrady, all that kind of stuff is so much better, I think, than the Panini era.
Yeah, like early we were talking earlier about like multiplayer cards. I grabbed 2 that were in the stack just to so this is like early Panini, which I like. Anything with like multi-patch relics with multiplayers, like this is sort of that 2009, 2010 Orlando Magic team I was talking about with Vince and Richard and Jameer. That's out of 10. But then I kind of prefer like this is a Stadium Club starting 5. These are kind of impossible to find, and you know if you have one for your team, they're pretty tough and they're kind of pricey too. There's not a whole lot to it, but I think the pack odds on this, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like insane.
So are those unnumbered?
It's not. No, it's just an insane pack odd. I could look it up for you. I want to say it's astronomical. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, I've only seen 2 of those ever. So,
oh wow. Yeah, I absolutely love the 0910 and 1011 absolute memorabilia stuff. Like those multi-patches from there are so nice.
Yeah, the foiling on those earlier Panini years is really nice too.
Yeah, that and then the stuff from UD Black. Like if you want to go pre-Panini, that's my favorite stuff. Anything UD Black.
Oh yeah, that's like UD Black chronology and exquisite is like the holy trinity for me in Upper Deck basketball.
No love for Ultimate Collection.
It's great too. It's like the grandfather that came before everybody else, but the other one just shined a little brighter for me.
For sure.
Ultimate walk so the others could run.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimate's great. It has a huge run too, which is nice from 2000, 2001 to 09, 10 or whatever it is, 08, 09. So it has a longer run than most of them, but UD Black's foil chronology's uniqueness of like the canvas timeless memories, and then obviously exquisite speaks for itself. It doesn't need any argument.
Yeah. All right. That unless anyone has anything to add, anyone have any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Just as we're talking football, I think we could let Adam go so you can go watch the honor ceremony and see if Ken Anderson makes into the Hall of Fame tonight.
You took the words out of my mouth. I see all this Kenny Anderson, the faux, like the fake Ken Anderson in the comment section. The real Ken Anderson better get in the Hall of Fame tonight. So I'm gonna hop off and do just that.
Yeah, you go
good
take
luck
care of
to
that.
If Mike Allstott's not getting inducted, I'm not interested.
Yeah, he's not. No chance.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I think that was a good conversation about trades, players getting traded, and how that influences our collecting. Aaron and Justin, thank you guys for hanging out. I mean, I hope this is the first of many, many times. Sean, real quick, wants our Super Bowl picks. So let's just go in a round table. I'm going to concede a pick because I barely even know who's in the Super Bowl. So we can start with the obvious one. Steve, who are you picking?
What are you going to say? It's going to be 3-1. It's going to be Seattle 3, and then me just being the one Patriots call right here. So
my son is diabetic, and the Patriots have a special teams guy who's diabetic. So we have a soft spot for him. So I don't know. We're torn. Otherwise, we'd never cheer for the Patriots.
I was cheering for the Eagles last year, so you can give me a chance for the Patriots this year.
That surprises me.
Do you guys, Adam, Justin, have a rooting interest, or just have a thought of who's going to win?
Don't really care, but I think the Seahawks win personally.
Yeah. As a longtime Pats hater, I'm actually going for the Pats because Tom Brady did eventually bring my Bucks to Super Bowl, so got to show a little lenience there.
But Tom Brady has no connection to the Patriots anymore.
I know.
What? I don't know how you can say that. I mean, he's forever connected to the Patriots.
Yeah, not according to Tom Brady.
But
he said that.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see everyone next week. Thanks everyone for hanging out in the chat. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for your input. We will see you guys all. Have a fun Super Bowl. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.